Thanks for joining us for our Chamber Connection podcast. Thanks to our friends at Speakeasy, we are here for the next 52 weeks, bringing you guests from around our community, elected officials, business owners, folks doing great work here in Macomb County. So sit back, take a listen, and we hope you'll join us every week for our Chamber Connection. Good morning. My name is Stacy Ziarko. I'm the president and CEO of the Sterling Heights Regional Chamber of Commerce, and we are here today for our Chamber Next edition of our Chamber Connection podcast. My guest today is Megan Owens, Executive Director of Transportation Riders United. Megan, thanks for being here today.
Thank you so much for having me.
We are thrilled to talk about a conversation that comes up all the time, is transit and how we get from point A to point B. So first, tell me a little bit about yourself, and then tell me a little bit about Transportation Riders United, which we will talk about going forth, is TRUE.
Yes. Well, TRUE has been around for 20 years with the idea that everyone should be able to get where they need to go, regardless of whether they drive. And yet, for too much of our region, the assumption is everyone drives. And if you don't, people sometimes feel almost a second-class citizen. And so trying to make sure that there are good quality, affordable, sustainable transportation options for everyone. If you want to drive, great. But if you don't, can you still get to work, to school, to the doctor? So that has been what TRUE has worked on throughout all of Southeast Michigan, and occasionally on some statewide efforts as well. How can we ensure consistent funding and high quality transit options, even here in the Motor City?
Absolutely. I think there is that general assumption, everybody's got a car, why do we need transportation? I have learned so much over the last couple months about people that do rely on some of our public transportation systems. Today we're going to talk a lot about, especially here in Macomb County, something we are very familiar with is our SMART system.
Yeah.
So SMART, let's put it out there, the renewal is on the ballot in just a couple of months. And so there are such strong benefits to smart ridership. So talk to me a little bit about, if you could share with our listeners today, give me an overview of SMART. How is it used? And what in Macomb County, how do folks use it?
Sure. Well, there's really 4 different parts of the SMART service. What's best known, certainly, are the big buses, the fast buses that go down Gratiot, seamlessly connecting people all up and down the Gratiot corridor. Those are really popular. They run 7 days a week, whether it's connecting people to jobs or entertainment in Detroit or just up and down, or a lot of other routes, the major mile routes, for example. There's regularly scheduled buses that will, most of which are taking people to jobs or to school or shopping or such. But that's not the only part of the system. That's sort of the most visible. But there's also what's called paratransit, and that's a sort of reservation system for seniors and for people with disabilities. Everywhere in the county, there are people who can't physically drive and still have places to go. And so they can call a couple of days ahead of time and set up an appointment to get picked up at their house and taken to their appointment so they can get to work or school or especially appointments and groceries and stuff for the thousands of seniors, people with disabilities all across the county. But there's also, there've long been community transit. So different municipalities have their own transit vehicles that they can use for a variety of different community needs, whether it are those senior rides or taking, I know the senior center here will take seniors on trips, all sorts of trips around the region to go to different entertainment venues. And
to expose them, to see something that they might not be able to get to on their own.
Yeah, because there's more to life than just work and doctor's appointments.
Absolutely.
People need some of that real activity. And then the newest is Flex, and that's sort of Smart's answer to Uber. The idea of using an app, or you can also make a telephone call to call for a ride, and it'll come get you either right at your house or maybe ask you to walk down to the end of the block or two. and take you to either to a bus stop if you're a long way, or if you have a long trip to go, it'll take you from your house maybe to the major bus stops. You can, or take you right to your destination if it's not too far of a trip. But all four of those, SMART's really trying to figure out how they can be a mobility manager, how they can most efficiently and affordably get people where they need to go. So all four of those are really important parts of the SMART portfolio and of Macomb's transit options.
So, we talk about this. Yes, this is a millage renewal. 4 years ago, it had a little bit of a tough climb. It passed by less than 40 votes, and obviously we want that to do. This proposal has the support of our business community, our medical providers, our education, our community colleges here. You're gaining large community support. How much will this impact the average household in Macomb County?
Well, there is no additional tax.
Right, so it's not new.
No new costs.
No new costs.
No new cost to any Macomb household. This is actually technically a small decrease. It's going from like a 0.99 mil to a 0.95.
There you go.
So there's a tiny decrease. And SMART has been working hard to be more efficient. They have not increased the millage rate in 8 years and won't for another 4. So this is maintaining, and even for households today, this costs the average household less than $10 a month to provide all of these different services. So as a part of your taxes, you are helping to make sure all of these options are out there. Because honestly, whether it's your neighbor down the street, your mom who suddenly can't drive, or heck, your car breaks down. You were mentioning problems with your garage door.
Yeah.
I had a friend whose garage door broke with their car in it.
And then you can't go anywhere.
And you can't go anywhere. And luckily she was able to walk a couple of blocks, get on the SMART bus, and still get on with her day because the options were there. So any one of us are one broken foot or one broken axle away from needing an option for a day or a week or even occasional.
Well, and I think, a great example that we heard a couple weeks ago was one of our chamber board members who talked about her mother who had some illnesses and uses the SMART service to pick her up and take her to doctor's appointments. It's made it so that our colleague can continue to go to work, be there for the really important appointments, but her mom has some independence to go on her own. And that service is able to drop her off, picks her up, and takes her home.
Yeah.
And they've made friends with other riders or the drivers too. You see that a lot.
Yeah, there's some fabulous drivers, some real nice relationships that get established. And that story was so compelling to me that she was sharing that she's not just part of the sandwich generation taking care of kids and parents. She's part of the club sandwich generation because she's not only taking care of kids and a mother who had a surprise stroke in her 40s, but also a grandfather who's 95.
Right.
And still working. So she loves caring for her family, and there are so many caregivers who do provide tons of rides. Sometimes people, that's what family's for. Who needs this transit?
Right.
But family can't do everything all the time.
I think back probably 30 years ago, my grandfather was legally blind and had lost his independence and has lost his ability to drive. And he was living with my family at the time. I didn't know that not everyone's grandparents lived with them for the longest time, but he had to take away his car. And he got a little grumpy and grouchy, and the service picked him up and took him to the senior center. And my dad said, it will be here at 8 o'clock on Wednesday morning. You will meet it in the driveway. And he griped and he complained all day long. But guess what? The next Wednesday, he was waiting for that bus at the center of the driveway because it gave him some independence.
Yeah.
He got out of the house. He made friends at the senior center. He wasn't so isolated in his home, where I think some people forget that not all of us have accessibility to get where we need to go.
And Macomb County is, all of our communities, but Macomb County especially, it's aging very rapidly.
It is.
We sometimes don't think about the fact that we're not even people who do drive aren't going to always be able to drive. AARP had some studies that people often outlive their ability to drive by 7 years,
Right.
7 to 10 years. And people still deserve a high quality of life. that research finds that if people don't have, if seniors don't have either the ability to drive or good transit, they'll still figure out how to get to the doctor or the grocery, but they'll do only 40% as many trips to go volunteer, go to church, go visit friends, the things that really make life worth living. And so having a transit system really helps make Macomb a place where people can age in place with dignity and independence. And that's something I think we can all support.
And I think one of the areas, SMART does focus a lot on the medical. People seem to think of it as the medical side, but it's also taking people to and from a job. You see them up and down Van Dyke all day long, visiting our manufacturing facilities at Stellantis and Ford. You also have a bunch of folks going to Macomb Community College to educate themselves.
Yeah.
That's another strong area of people that use the system, correct?
Absolutely. There's certainly workers, all sorts of workers can use it. And really, there are a lot of people who are struggling financially, who would just be a heck of a lot better off if they could save an extra $100, $200 a month. And so if families are able to maybe go from 3 cars in the household down to 2, because maybe that college student doesn't need to drive, or maybe dad can take the bus to work while the other family members drive, that can save thousands of dollars. So you have a lot of workers who are trying to save up for that first car, students who are juggling sort of low-wage entry-level jobs while also dealing with student loans and also trying to save up for a home or whatever. So SMART can be a great way to save money and to have that option can really be a lifesaver. And there's a lot of people from an employer perspective, that's also a lifesaver. If someone's actually, whether it's from an educational or an employer perspective, I had a friend who was a community college teacher and said that all too often, if a student's cars failed, the student would fail.
Right. They
They have to then completely drop out, lose all of that time and credit and work,
and
start over again, whether that's at a job or in school. So having that backup, sometimes, even if you don't personally use it, sometimes I like to think of the bus system a little bit like the fire department. Never used the fire department, but I'm sure happy to put my tax dollars to have it there.
That's a good analogy.
Or if my neighbor's house catches on fire, I really want that fire department to be there. So it's about having those resources available all throughout our community.
And SMART's kind of changing with the needs and the times of the community too. You mentioned really briefly earlier the Smart Flex system. I think this is kind of ingenious and super affordable. Can you give a little bit more detail? I know it's kind of, we use it similar to like rideshare programs where you call and it shows up.
Yeah.
But this is super affordable.
It really is. Most rides are just $2, and you'll never pay more than $8. None of this crazy surge pricing where suddenly the trip that used to be $20 is going to be $75 because there's not enough drivers out there. Now it might be a shared vehicle. They might pick up 2 or 3 people and then drop you off. So it might not be an immediate direct route. They might ask you to walk a block and a half to a more convenient spot. But yeah, you pull up your app, the Smart Flex app. You can find it on your iPhone or Android store, and look up Smart Flex. And even the first 4 rides are free. So anyone, now it's not running everywhere in Macomb,
Sure,
but especially along the Hall Road corridor.
That's why I've seen it a lot.
Yeah,
I've seen it a lot on the Hall Road corridor.
Over the last year, Smart has been piloting it in different parts. So along Hall Road in Macomb, in the Auburn Hills Pontiac area, Farmington, Dearborn, I think. But it's been so popular, they're hoping to eventually be expanding it throughout their entire service area. But yeah, you pull up an app and say where you want to go, and they'll give you can watch the car come and meet you when it's going to meet you. Their goal is to have it there within 15 minutes. Sometimes it's more like 30 or occasionally 45. They're still working out some of the bugs, but
it's another option in the toolbox for smart.
It's a great option. And sometimes people say there was some opposition in past years saying, oh, nobody wants to get on a bus. We should just be subsidizing Uber. Well, this is sort of doing that. This is using our community investment to provide a service that can pick people up and take them where they need to go, if that's the neighborhood grocery store or out to dinner, or to connect to the bus stop. Maybe you don't live right near Gratiot, but you want to take the Flex over there, and then you want to go down to a ball game without having to spend $40 on parking. A couple of bucks on your Flex and fast rides can be a really great way for people to get out and get around.
So I think that's a really good point too, is, this proposal coming up in November is really focused on our Macomb County initiatives. I watched a woman every single morning. She would pick up the smart bus off of Shaner, and it took her to where she worked at DTE. So she lived in my neighborhood, and she lived about a block from me. She would cross the street every morning, get on the bus, and drove to work. Because she said it had nothing to do, and in fairness, it had nothing to do with financing. It had nothing to do, but yet she had an hour of her day each way.
Yeah.
Where she wasn't stressed because she wasn't the one driving.
Yep.
She read a book or she listened to music, and it got her to her job downtown.
Yeah.
So I know I actually worked downtown for 3 years in the same building as Smart, and I could have picked up the bus at 16 in Van Dyke, and it would have dropped me off in front of my building.
Wow.
I was a person that had to be in and out all day long for work, so it didn't work for me. But people don't realize that they could use this as transportation. Again, I didn't have to be the one driving every morning, driving downtown.
Yeah.
Holy moly, would my life have been different.
Absolutely. It really can be relaxing. Days I don't, in fact, have to drive the kids into school, I do enjoy taking the transit in. My kids loved it when we were I used to take them to daycare, and the days we could ride on the bus to the daycare downtown. There's a great YMCA daycare in downtown Detroit when I was going there. The kids loved it. It was so much more fun to play patty cake with other random business people.
Start your day out differently
than to be strapped into their car seat. It can be pretty enjoyable.
I think we look at the faces of Smart very differently, and we've talked a little bit. I have a friend of mine who's in Oakland County, uses the Smart system there, and doesn't have a car at 32 years old because she said, we talked about this. Young professionals have high costs right now. Student loans, if they have a mortgage or rent, gas prices are high. So if this service allows them to not have a vehicle and still be mobile and get where they need to go, it's pretty invaluable to them.
And it's about having choices. We all want to have different choices on where we live. Different people want different types of housing. We all have different communication choices. Sometimes if I want to talk to you, I'll pick up the phone, or maybe text, or maybe email, or Facebook Messenger, whatever.
Right.
There are different communications modes for different times. I really want us to live in a community where transportation can be the same thing. Do I want to get on my bike and ride along a nice trail to go visit my friend, or to go out? Is there a reason I really need to have my car or prefer to have my car for this certain trip? Do I want to ride the bus? We're not there. Not everybody has all of those choices as conveniently as they might want, but this at least makes sure we maintain an essential baseline of everyone can at least have some way to get around. And
I think
that
the great
is such
analogy
a
is the
lifeline.
fire department, right? You don't want to use them. You don't want to need them. They're good-looking guys, but you don't want them to have to show up at your house in the middle of the night. But if you did need them to, they're there to help you out.
Absolutely.
And I think that this service is truly beneficial for the residents of Southeast Michigan, especially Macomb County. And we just need to, think of our greater community here.
And it is, as you mentioned, Smart's really trying to innovate.
Yeah.
Well,
They're
they've
getting
been
some electric buses too.
Yeah, yep. They've got their first electric buses. They're going to pilot out 4 of them, see how well they work. And if they work well, they're so nice. I was on one the other day.
Very cool.
And they're so much more quiet.
Okay.
They're quieter. They have more windows. But otherwise, they're just another way to get around. But between the electric buses, there's now a DART pass where if you are riding, you can use you can spend $2 and have unlimited rides on SMART or DDOT on the Detroit buses or the Q Line streetcar downtown. 4 hours of unlimited rides on any of those just from one pass, or even an app that you can. I just buy 10 passes on an app and then I just pull them up whenever I need them. I don't have to worry if I have cash. Or there's even an app where you can track the bus. You can watch
where it
is the bus. And they are having some difficulties if drivers are out sick. They don't have enough extra drivers. Occasionally routes do have to get canceled, but you can pull it up on the app and see exactly what's going on. So, well, SMART's been serving Macomb County for more than 20 years. It's not just the same old, same old. They've really been making some upgrades and changes.
How affordable is a ride?
$2 for most rides.
And I think now is we look at gas prices that are your round trip would be more than would be less than your gallon of gas.
Yep, $4 gets you 8 hours of unlimited rides. And for people who use it frequently, I think it's $70 for all of your monthly transportation.
Oh, okay.
So for people who are using it regularly, you can just get the monthly pass and then you never have to think about it again. It's just always there for you.
I think this is a good conversation starter. Megan, you spoke to the Chamber board meeting a couple weeks ago, and I think that one of the things that was pleasantly surprising to both of us is, how many folks that are part of that sandwich generation, both of them talked about parent choosing the bus because a good example was somebody had to go to dialysis 3 times a week, and it was so time consuming for him to drive from his house to drive to dialysis to drive back, and SMART could drop him off. I think, this is one of those things as you start having conversations about this initiative over the next couple weeks, you're going to be surprised at who amongst you is using this service for something that you might not consider. And I think those are the people that we have to remember when we go to vote this year.
And it was wonderful to see. We've done a series of transit town halls because, again, for people who drive, they don't really think much about this.
Right.
That's probably our biggest challenge is people who just don't have to think about it, so they don't think about it. But it was wonderful to have support from Henry Ford Health. They see this as critically important,
Absolutely.
not only to get their employees there, but also to have a lot fewer no-show appointments. Transportation is usually one of the biggest reasons why people miss appointments, and that just messes up everybody's day and can have health consequences. Right. Macomb Community College was a wonderful partner. There were so many different people who came out and said, yeah, this is really, really valuable. So yeah, we really are encouraging everyone who does support it. We've got a Keep Smart Rolling
Absolutely.
Website and Facebook page where people can both learn more, get some social media graphics or other information, share with your friends. This is something you think's important. Take a minute to tell your friends, your neighbors, your coworkers, hey, make sure to give that Macomb County Public Transportation millage, it's kind of a mouthful, but the Macomb County Public Transportation millage, make sure to give that a thumbs up. Keep the smart buses rolling. No additional tax costs for Macomb residents.
This ballot in Macomb County, I've seen it. It's big. So you got to flip it over, correct?
Yes,
because this proposal is going to be on the back, so be sure to flip it over.
Yeah, you can't just vote the first couple of big name races and then consider it done. Vote all the way to the bottom of the ballot. Now, there are certainly some high-profile state ballot measures, and this will likely be right after the state ballot measures. But yeah, make sure you flip over that ballot. Vote all the way to the end. There's often some very important local measures at the end, but yeah, make sure and people can start voting now. the voting has already begun, and no reason absentee voting.
Yep. And what is your website? People want more information or they have questions. Tell us where they can go and keepsmartrolling.org.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep. We've got a keepsmartrolling.org or Keep Smart Rolling on Facebook. Our organization is DetroitTransit.org because we work all throughout the Metro Detroit region. So we've got lots of information about all sorts of different transit-related issues and stories and opportunities to try to make some real improvements. So we encourage everyone we've got a voter pledge.
All right.
Pledge your support, tell your friends, and make sure you vote yes.
All right, Megan, I can't say it any better than that. So thank you for joining me today to talk about this really important issue here, not only in Sterling Heights, but all of Macomb County. And we will see you next time on our next edition of The Chamber Connection. Thanks for tuning in to The Chamber Connection. Be sure to check out information on the Sterling Heights Regional Chamber of Commerce website, our Facebook page, Instagram, and LinkedIn. We look forward to you connecting with us and tuning in next week.